A very good afternoon to you. I'm Ross Thomas, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the third edition of the Masterclass in Audio presented by Infinimation Technologies and Audionote India. Our guest today is Koen Vaessen of Vaessen Audio Designs, Belgium. Many of you may have already read about him in the meeting invitation. But for those who haven't, here's a small backgrounder. Koen studied graphics in SISA, the Institute for Art and Craftsmanship in Holland, and ran a business doing graphic design and offset printing for 10 years. In 1998, he started his own company and designed his flagship loudspeaker, Aquarius. Koen's company, Vaessen Audio Design, is considered to be one of Europe's biggest dealers for Luxman audio. So welcome to our session, Koen, and it's great to have you here. Before I get into the topic, just to remind everybody about our standard protocol. Any questions you have, please type into the chat window. Also, please mute your video and microphone. Today's topic is all about the myth of high-end audio. We all are acquainted with the term high-end audio, and there are thousands of companies who claim to make high-end audio. So what makes something high-end? Is it simply inflated prices or great looks or any special electromechanical or acoustic techniques? We thought it would be a great idea to have one of the builders who build high-end audio day in and day out to share his experiences. Over to you, Koen.
Hello everybody. I'm Koen Vaessen. High-end audio, yeah, it's a big word, but I will talk from my experience and from my point of view. To me, the difference between high-end audio and like normal audio is, if you have a normal audio product, you have a product that you want to put on the market within a price range. So the product is going to be sold for, let's say, €1,000. There is profit for the dealer, there is profit for the distributor, there is profit for the builder, and what is left is the budget to build something that has to perform within that price range. So all the components inside are picked to fit into the price of the product. With high-end audio, it is different. So most of the high-end audio manufacturers, they pick their products, they choose the best they can get, they build their product, this product has a price, and from that price, the end price will be calculated. So there is margins for distributor, for dealer, and that makes what high-end products are more expensive than normal average products. So that's the reason why high-end is more expensive than average consumer products. So that is in short the answer to the myth of high-end. Also, if you look at high-end products, the finish, most of the high-end manufacturers, they look for exotic material. They want to bring something special. They want to give their client or their consumer something that nobody else has. And that's why they look for exotic materials. They look for special ways to make the product, and this costs a lot of money. Most of the high-end manufacturing or the high-end, a lot of it is handmade. So they look for the ultimate finish, and they put the standard as high as possible to give something that looks very good, also that sounds very good. In my own range, I check most of the components that I can find, and I test and I listen, and when I find something better, I use it. And the price is not an issue. So it is, if I find something better, I use it. And if it is more expensive, that will end up in a product or in a model that is more expensive. But I think for high-end, the price is not that important. So that is the reason why high-end products are more expensive than mainstream mass production products.
Can you just detail some of your experiences in designing a high-end loudspeaker in terms of, is it like design itself, is it an art or a science? How do you go about it? Do you simulate a build first?
And I think designing speakers is you build up an experience and you always go further in your way to find the ultimate sound or the realistic sound, because that is what you try to achieve. If you build a loudspeaker, you want the speaker to disappear, and you want the music to play, and you want to forget that you are listening to a music system. If you are listening to a music system, or if you hear your music system, then something is not right. The music has to be free of the system, and I think that is experience. And you also, I'm always looking for better. It is good, but you can always, the perfect loudspeaker doesn't exist, because every material, everything you use leaves a mark on the sound, and you want to that disappear. So you want to listen to what the musician or the recorder has the intention of that. So this is a bit and I'm like in my, I'm always listening and curious for new things, and I try a lot. I also don't use a lot what I've tried because it's not good enough. But if I find something where I can improve my sound, I will use it, and I will bring it into my line. So this.
So, I mean, when you start designing, can you just tell us how you start with the idea of, I mean, where does that start with? You know?
Oh, so I have first start. Let's say I visualize what I built. So the loudspeaker is ready in my head before I start drawing it, before I start building it, and before I start designing it. So it is, I have a project ready in my head, and I draw it out like I see it, and then I go to people who can help me to produce it, because I have a great fantasy, and I have a good experience in products, in the use of products, and in material choice and material sounds, and I always compare a loudspeaker builder with a cook. So everybody can bake a steak, or everybody can cook, but there are a few who can make it a feast. And I think in loudspeaker building, it is the same. So the ingredients are for everybody the same. It's what you do and how you combine the ingredients that you make something that people say, wow. And for it is, I have a picture of what I want, and I draw it, and I go to 3D designers who work my idea out, and then it goes to a 3D milling. It gets milled. There is a mother model. From that mother model, they make a mold, and from that mold, they build my cabinets. And when the cabinet is ready, it goes to a painter, to a paint shop, and I also pick the best painters that I can find. So for the moment, I have a paint shop. It's an Italian, and he's used to paint high-end cars, and the paint is fantastic. But it was also a long way before I was there, and before I found the people who could work to the standards that I have and that I want to. And it's the same with every component in my range. There is three criteria. First, it has to look good, or it's not first, second, and third. Every point is as important as the other, but first it has to look good. So all the components that I use has to be beautiful. Second, they have to sound good. So they have to have the sound signature that I have, that I want. They have to produce the sound that I want to feel, because audio or music is 50% listening, but the other 50% is feeling. So if you feel the music, you are happy. If you don't feel it, you keep looking for something else. So this is how it works. And then third, they have to be very reliable. So if I have products, I used products in the past that had the first criteria, that were looking very good, that were sounding very good. But if I built 10 loudspeakers and 7 of them, the woofers break, sorry, I don't use it anymore. So I replace it with other materials that don't break. The customer gets my guarantee because I picked the wrong product, and I don't use that product anymore because it is not reliable. So I have, except for this product that I use, I'm building 22 years loudspeakers. I have no fallout. There is not one speaker that is broken, or that is, they last forever. And this is what I want for my customers. So, and I think also that is part of the high-end. If you buy a good high-end product, if you don't change it because you want something else, it will last forever. If you buy a mainstream product, you have problems after 10, 15 years because they picked cheaper components, and the cheaper components don't last that long, which is normal. I hope this is an answer to your question.
Yeah. You have a rather unusual shape to your loudspeakers. How do you determine that? Mm-hmm.
Sorry,
the organic shape.
Okay.
No.
The shape.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah. The ovoid shape is used by me to control the resonance in the cabinet. So the perfect shape for a loudspeaker is a ball, because a ball cannot move anywhere. So if you make a ball, you put a woofer inside, you have the vibrations outside, you have the same waves go inside, and the ball controls it. The ball cannot go anywhere. In my case, so the first loudspeaker that I built as a professional was the Aquarius, was the big egg. It's 1 meter high. I had 3 loudspeakers, so I could not place 3 loudspeakers in a ball. So I stretched the ball into an egg. This is how I came to the egg shape. So I didn't pick an egg shape because I like the shape and I want to make a design speaker. I took the egg shape because an egg. So I use fiberglass as a material for my loudspeakers because it is light or lighter than wood, and you can build a strong cabinet with less material. So the reason if you have a wooden box, the corners they are very strong. The edges are strong, but the middle plates, they are weaker. If you play music in a wooden box, the middle plates, they start vibrate, and what you hear is 50% music coming out from the drivers, and 50% is resonance of the cabinet. A lot of people like wooden boxes, but a wooden box is a vibrating, resonating box, and the wood adds to the sound, but takes away the detail of the music. So I wanted to get rid of that. So I choose for polyester because it has a higher frequency range, a higher resonance frequency, and I could make a big speaker, could use less materials for a big speaker. In the end, is a lighter loudspeaker, because also I have to carry all the speakers myself. So for that reason, I made it and I did it. So and I stretched. So in short, I stretched the ball and I got the egg shape. And this is the story of the egg shape. And to be honest, I must say, when I started this project 22 years ago, I was building it. I had a dream, so I draw the egg shape. I had it made. I sold an apartment in that time. I made some profit on the apartment, and all the profit went into my first speaker project. And when I was close to finishing it, I was thinking, I don't know how it's going to sound. I don't know how fiberglass is going to influence the sound of my speaker, because I'm somebody, I have an idea, I do it. If it works, it works. If it don't work, I've learned something. But I was close to finishing the speaker, and then I played some music, and the first thing was like, wow, what is this? And then I invited some people who were selling some high-end stuff. The distributor of Perot from New Zealand came to me, and he gave me his 300 watt stereo amplifier and his preamplifier. He said, you can use it as long as you want, because I want you to go on the market with it and to do something, because what you made is out of, I've never heard something sounding like this. Whether it is better or the best, it is different, and it has its own sound signature. And so this is how it started when I was young, 22 years ago. And this is the story of the egg shape. And I use it till now. I use it until now because I believe the egg shape is a perfect shape for a loudspeaker, because you don't have two sides opposite to each other. If all the resonance or all the reflections inside, all the reflections inside, they go all the way, but they never reflect towards each other. So you never get the resonance of two sides next to each other.
Right. What about things like a crossover? How did you determine all this?
Crossover, you have a two-way, you have a three-way, you have a four-way crossover. So also in my designs, my motto is keep it simple. So I pick my components, I pick my drivers, and I use them first. I pick them on the frequency response of the drivers. So I pick drivers that the frequency where they have to work in should be as flat as possible. So this makes that you have a very pure sound from your driver, whether it's a tweeter, whether it's a mid-range, whether it's a woofer. So.
What did you decide to make it three-way? Why was that? Any particular reason? The choice of a two-way or a three-way.
Yes, my first. I'm going to shut down my phone too because I was a little distracted. My first design was a three-way. So in fact, the Aquarius is the second speaker I have made. The first real high-end speaker I made 35 years ago, and it was in an octagon wooden cabinet. And this speaker was sounding so good that I used this setup, like the titanium tweeter, titanium mid-range, and the paper carbon, woofer. I used it in the Aquarius. So I used this three-way setup already before, and it is a three-way, the Aquarius. But I have a titanium tweeter, 25 millimeter, so 1 inch titanium tweeter, and I have a 2-inch titanium mid-range. But these two drivers, they are from the same manufacturer, they are from the same family, and they also have the same sound character because it is the same material. So it is easy. They have, in the area that they work, they have a very flat response. So you connect them to each other, and you have a three-way. But in fact, it is like the tweeter is an extension of the mid-range. And with the Aquarius, so the first speaker, the big one, the crossover frequency is 1200 hertz and 7000 hertz. So the mid-range is the most critical speaker or the most critical driver in the setup, because you're hearing the area where you hear the most critical is between that area, and above 7000 you hear a lot. But because the crossover frequency is so high, you have the whole picture, in fact, coming from the mid-range. And the woofer, because the woofer goes high, you have a good support for voices and for and bass instruments and like that.
What about time alignment? Do you look into those areas as well?
Yeah, of course. Most of the time, I'll try to keep the magnets of the drivers as close to each other as possible. So where the how you say, the voice coil, or where the
acoustic center.
Yeah, the acoustic center. Where it starts has to be as close to each other.
Right. So
this is a little. This is also the reason why the Riva has a 15 degree bends 15 degrees, because then the acoustic center is at the same line towards the listener. Yeah, please.
So you want to talk a little more about the Riva, which is your latest development, right?
If you want.
No, would you like to talk more about the Riva, which is your latest development?
Yes, of course. So the Riva is the speaker that is behind me is an inverted Dapolito system. So instead of the tweeter in the middle, there is two woofers in the middle. So it's an isobaric system. There is a 12-inch woofer which is visible, and there is a 10-inch woofer with the same engine and the same magnet behind it. So it's a push-pull system. Then there is two carbon woofers, 8-inch mid woofers next to the woofer, and there is 3 times 2, 2 times 3, so 6 RAL ribbon tweeters at the top. And the reason why I choose to make to use this shape or this setup is because I've heard some loudspeakers where the woofer was at ear height, and the impact of voices and of instruments on you is so amazing that I wanted to build a speaker like that. So if you place the woofer down, you get a lot of reflection and coupling to the ground, which makes your bass more fat, but also less detailed. And so it's also a project that I started from my idea, but also before I did it, I didn't know how it would go or how it would end. So it is not, this is something you cannot calculate. You can do whatever you want. You can think this is good or this is not done, but you only know when you do it, when you try it, and when you, and also here I did it, I made it, I measured everything, and the sound is, let's say, very satisfactory. So it is, I'm very happy with it, and it's a speaker that can that has its place in the market and and it will definitely attract people that want something that nobody has. So this is. Yeah.
Has it been launched yet?
It has been.
Has it been launched yet?
Oh, I'm busy launching so I'm posting it, and it is, so what's behind me is the prototype, and there is I sold 1 pair, and this pair is at the paint shop, so I have to build it in the next weeks, and I have 2 interested people who are deciding, and it will, but like I told you in our meetings before, so I work on my own. I do everything on my own, and so it is like a slow process. So if I had or was a company, it would be different, and I would be the designer, and somebody else would take care of marketing and all the things. But because I am the one-man band, it is, yeah, it is different. It's not difficult, it's different.
So coming back to the high-end market, how do you see it when you started, and how do you see it now? I mean, what's the difference in your personal experience?
I think when I started in 98, which was, let's say, when I started, I didn't know the high-end market. So I had the Aquarius, I had a high-end speaker, but I didn't know my place in the market. And the first show I did was, first I had a show in Brussels, and then I was invited to do the Frankfurt show, which is the show that turned out now to be the Munich show. But in that time it was a small, it was a big show in Kempinski Hotel in Frankfurt, but Kempinski Hotel was not a big hotel. So it was a show with 300 or 400 rooms. And so I exposed there in 99, no, in 2000. In 2000, I did my first show. And yeah, 2001, we had 9/11. And since then, there was a lot, there is a lot changed. I think before 2000, the high-end market was a lot easier, because if I speak to colleagues who are in business for 30 and 40 years, they say, yeah, it is a lot more different and difficult to get and to stay on the market. And I think I believe if you have a good product and you have a good structure, whether you do it alone or you have a small company and you can manage to have enough sales to stay in business, you will always stay and always be there. But I believe in the 20 years that I'm in business, I saw a lot of companies coming, but I also saw a lot of companies going. And some people, let's say the people who come to the high-end audio business because they see the prices and they think we are going to be rich fast, they are fast out of business too, because you can make a living, but you're never going to get rich with high-end audio. You have to do it out of your passion, and you have to do it, yeah, because you love the music and you love your job, so to say. This is the only reason, and that's the only. These are the ones that are going to stay. The big guys, they will always be there because they have their network of distributors and they have their fans. Because if you whatever big brand you name, they have their fans and their buyers, and they have their network, they have their distributors, they have their dealers, and they bring new products all the time. So they stay in the magazines and they will stay there. But it's the small companies that try to get on the market. They grow, the company grows. And then, because if you want to be recognized as a brand and be on the market, you have to bring every year a new product, whether it's small or big, but you have to be in the picture every year with a new product. Otherwise, the dealer, if you bring a new product to the dealer, and it is good, the dealer is happy and the dealer is excited, and the dealer will show it to all his customers, because you come in the shop and say, this is the product, you have to listen to it. If it's good, it sells itself. So this is selling high-end audio is very easy. If you have a good product, the people want to have it. So, and if it's not good, it will stay there, and it will stay there forever, unless you push somebody to buy it and he will sell it after 3 or 4 months because he's not happy with it. But yeah, like what I told, I think it is difficult, but it's a very small market, and there is a lot of companies on this market and on this field. And in every price range, you will find exciting products that are good or that are okay. And you see new companies now. You have Asian companies, and there are very good Asian companies coming on the market, and they bring nice stuff. And if they are good, they will survive and they will stay. And if they are there for the wrong reason, or they will disappear. Because if, like I told you before, if you want to make a lot of money, you don't have to be in the high end, because it's people, yeah, a lot of people think that, but it is, I know better.
Right. What about, what's your view of the role of the integrator in such high-end setups, system integrators?
I think there is a big role for system integrators to, yeah. In my case, I think a system integrator is a good partner to get in touch with the customer, because the system integrators, they are in the house, and they have contact, and they have a good contact and close contact to the customer, so they know what the customer is looking for, or what he can be interested in. Because a lot of customers, they are looking for nothing, so they don't even know that it exists. So that is, sometimes it is good that if you have somebody who has interest in music and who who goes to a big warehouse where they have a lot of small systems making noise, he would buy something like that. But because he don't know what is on the market, and the high-end, only audiophiles know the high-end stores. But a lot of people who are interested in music, they never been to a high-end store because they don't know. First, there is the entry is difficult, because if you know it, it's fun to go there. But if you don't know it, you don't know where to start, because there is so much, and a lot of people are afraid if they come in that they have to buy something. So this is the reason why they don't go there. But as a system integrator, you are there because you are doing, you are integrating the house. You are doing light, you are doing domotica, you are doing a lot. So you have contact with the customer. So if you ask the customer, are you interested in music, and are you interested to experience something, because a high-end system is an experience, to experience something, and you can perform something for him, I think you are in. So I think there is a big role for system integrators in audio, or in high-end audio, to work with the good shops and to work with people who are, because selling audio is, to me, it is not selling a product. Selling audio is try to get to know your customer, try to get to know what he wants to hear and feel. And then you can look for something that can make him happy. And then if you succeed in that, you have a customer for life, and you don't have to make publicity, because your customer will do that for you. And I think that is the way to the way to work. There is a question coming in.
I think it's from Masburn.
Mm-hmm.
He's asking, if companies have to release new products every year to stay relevant and to stay in the magazines, does this mean that high-end gets better every year? I mean, the flagship product one year may not be the flagship the next year.
No, this is not what I meant. So this is the reason why what I said is not possible for me, because my products stay for 8 years. So if I build a design, there is, if I can improve something, I will improve it, but it will be details. But I try to keep the designs the same for 8 years. So if you buy something for today, you are sure that this model after 8 years is still up to date. What I meant with the products, every year a new product, I mean, if you are growing into a company, you have a range. You have an entry level, you have mid-price level, you have mid-high price level, and you have a flagship product, or more than one. But these companies, they have to bring every year, or maybe 2 times a year, a new product, or a new product in another range. So they don't change their flagship products every year, because I think most of the big brands, they change every 3 to 4 years. So if you buy something today, you are 4 years good, and after 4 years you have the old model, and they will change it that way that you have the old model. So this, because you have to buy new. And this is another philosophy than what I have. I like to bring something that stays forever. Like the first Aquarius, if you put it next to the model of today, it's a different speaker, but they are still very close to each other. But if you have to run a company and you have people on the payroll, there is money needs to come in, so you have to change it, because your fans need to buy the newest model to be on the latest standard, because the company has to generate money to stay in business, which is normal, I guess.
I think that kind of answers your question, Marsman. So in terms of Integrator, as a manufacturer, what do you look for when you try to partner with them, in terms of technical experience or anything like that?
I think I work with an integrator in Holland, and I support him. So he's got he introduces me to his customer. We sit together. Like I told you before, I try to feel my customer. I try to know what does he want, what does he want to experience, how far does he want to go, and what can I do for him? So I'm listening to him, and when he doesn't know, I suggest. I think that we try to find a way to satisfy the customer. Then after that, there is a listening session, whether with the integrator or when it's close, it is here. And then after that, I support the integrator with everything that he needs for integrating the system. So I advise where he has to run the cables. I advise what cabling. So I'm let's say into the building process. And after, when everything is finished, the setup will be delivered, and I will tune the setup in the customer's house. So this is my motto is, I don't leave before it sounds good, and I'm not planning to stay long. So no, but I'm let's say I give my experience as an extra service towards the people who work with me or where I work together with, because I think to me it's important that every system that is delivered, that it sings, because like I said before, if your customer has a good system, it sounds good, he will show it to his friends and his relatives. And you don't have to sell a system. A good system sells itself. So this is
your experience. That's a follow-up question. Yeah. If most companies have already proclaimed that they have done the best they could with their flagship products, is it safe to say that they've reached the farthest they could go with high-end audio?
It is for the moment. But if tomorrow there is one of the components, if there is a new component, let's say if they find capacitors with whatever material inside, and this has such a sonic performance and improvement, and you try it, and the sound opens up even more than it did before, we are one step further. So there is an evolution in components. There is an evolution in everything, and sometimes it's better. Sometimes it's not as, it's new, but it's not as good. It is. I in the 22 years I experienced the introduction of Class D audio. In 20 years before, it was like some prototypes. Then Ice Power came with the Class D, and Class D improves every year. So the amplifier you buy today will sound good or sounds amazing, will touches you, this is the best you have. But if they found new components or find new ways to make it, and next year there will be a new model with the new technology, it's possible that it sounds like a tube amplifier. And I think in high-end audio, there are a lot of engineers, there are a lot of people with new ideas, And everybody in high-end audio who is developing products is experimenting all the time. So what I do here, I think all my colleagues are doing. So you try something, you don't use it because it's not better than what you have, but one day you do something, you say, hey, wow, this is amazing. And then you use it in your new product. And if you launch that new product, then it will, yeah, it is better than it was before. And I think this is why it keeps, there is an evolution, and it will never stop. So this, but if it's better, it will be always different than it was before. And if it is better, that is, I'm not the one who has to, I can decide it for myself, but in the end, it is the customer who has to say, wow, this is what I want, and then it is better. If you say it is okay, but it is not worth the money, then yeah, then it's good for me, but not for the customer. So I think in the end, it is the customer who decides whether he's interested or not.
Right. Thank you. There's a couple of other questions. This is more directed towards the Riva. And
Yeah.
The first question is, would the two individual halves of the Riva speaker not interact with each other, causing cancellations due to lobing of the individual units?
No. So what I hear when I listen to music, so the sound, the reproduction of the sound is so open and so wide. It's like almost like an electrostatic loudspeaker. So if they would cancel each other out, you don't have a sound stage, you don't have a 3D reproduction if something is not wrong in the speaker. So I can answer no to that.
Right. So the next question is also on the Riva. Curious to know the concept behind the three tweeters placed next to each other. How do you manage issues such as comb filtering?
I think the answer that I gave before also answers this question. So if the result is there is a good sound stage and there is a 3D, you have depth and you have width and you have a placement of the artist, there is no problem. So this is my answer to that.
Right. And which is the weakest link in the audio chain according to you? Is it the source, interconnects, preamp, amplification, power amp, or loudspeaker, or the room?
I think it is a very difficult question. There is all of them can be the weakest link, but it depends on the system. So every system is different. There are no two identical systems. If you put two identical systems in two different rooms, they will sound different. So I think it is up to the installer to listen to everything, to listen to the source, to know the materials, to know the source, to know the interconnects, to know and to have a feeling with the room. So for my instance, then I go back to the, let's say, system integrator. If the room is ready to install a system, I go in the room and I snap, and I hear what the room does, and on what I receive back from the room, I can put my system there and I can hook my cables up and I can advise how to tune the room to make it sound good. But you cannot buy a system in a shop, put it in a room, and ready, because it doesn't work like that. So the way I work is you put up a system. First, you pick the speakers. This is whatever you want. This is going to reproduce the sound, and then you put an amplifier and a source, whether it is analog, whether it is streaming, whether it is a CD player, and then according to the room or what the room does, you can tune with your cabling. Cabling is the last chain in the last part of the chain, because with your cabling you can, I will say, with your cabling you can sauce your system. You can make it sound sweeter. You can, if you have a damped room, you can highlight the mid and the highs. So this is there is no perfect component. There is no perfect speaker. There is no perfect. So you have to put it in the room. The room is the third loudspeaker, so to say. This is and two identical systems sound different in a different room. And in one room it will sound amazing. In another room it will sound horrible. So this is also the reason for audio shows, for instance. If I go to audio show and I listen, I do it on a regular basis, and I did almost all the shows that there were in Western world. I did one show in Hong Kong too, and I go in, and after the show, if I had 3 rooms where I found the sound satisfying, I had a good show. And it's not because the component, or not because of what is there, is not good, but it is so difficult to make a system sound good in a room, and especially in hotel rooms with plaster walls and with a lot of resonance, with air conditioning, grills, and with all the stuff that sings with. It is so difficult to make a system sound good in a couple of hours, because the build-up on an audio show lasts a couple of hours, that it is almost impossible to make a good impression on an audio show. This is it is easy with a small speaker, but if you go with a big speaker to an audio show, I experience very few good systems, good big systems on an audio show. Or you need a very good, like a ballroom, there you can play. But if you have to do it in a hotel room, it is almost impossible. Right. And it has nothing to do with whether the equipment is good but most of the time, like the audio shows too, the audio shows are pretty expensive. So what people do is they match with, so I'm a speaker builder, I know somebody who builds amplifiers and CD players, and I know a cable guy, so the 3 of us, we go together and we make a system. When it's a match, it's great. When it's not a match, it's a pity for the show, because you cannot, it is not the way it works. So, voila. Any other questions?
At the moment, do you believe in having subwoofers for your system, or you don't?
I don't have in my system. I don't have subwoofers. So the isobaric system. So the 2 woofers behind each other, they make very good and a very deep bass, because the bass goes deeper if you work with an isobaric system. And but I did systems for my customer with subwoofers, so it is possible. But for me, it's not necessary. So there is enough bass, and as long as you can keep the speaker, the lineup close to each other, you have it's homogenic, and you have a nice sound stage. If you put subwoofers, it's a good support for extra bass, but then you have to cut them as low as possible, that you just have the let's say, the impact of the subwoofer and not the sound of the subwoofer. If you hear the subwoofer, it's not placed right. So this is, you have to feel it, but you don't have to hear it.
There's a question, how much time does it take you to set up a high-end setup at a client's place in general?
Oh, that depends. So setting up is done in a couple of hours. So I think 3-4 hours setup is done. And then it is fine tuning. If you're lucky, it's 4 hours. If you're not lucky, it's 2 days. So it depends, all depends on the room, all depends on how your room interacts with the sound and how. So I let's say I have the experience, but there is no golden rule, there is no knowledge. So every room is different. All the materials that are used in the room, they react in a different way. So it is, you go in, that's why I said before, if I go in the room when the room is built, I snap my fingers and I hear what the room is doing with the sound. And from that, I can start building up my system, because I have an idea of what the result is going to be when there is a system in the room. But even then, it is a try and error until it sounds right. There is no golden rule. There is no book written on how to do it. It is 80%, 20% knowledge and 80% feeling. So this is.
So that's what you would advise any integrator to go through as well. Huh?
Yeah, this is it is experience. Huh? It is and it is trial and error. So some and during the time you learn how to if you have a problem, how to solve it acoustically and what things can help. But this is experience. This is, like I said, there is no book where you can study how to do the room.
Okay. Do you encounter many dedicated 2-channel listening rooms?
What do you mean by encounter?
Dedicate, I mean, as opposed to just putting it into a living room, for example, like we have.
I think the two-way system is the easiest to put in your living room without disturbing the room, because when you are alone as a man, it doesn't matter. But most of us, we have a family, and if you can bring 2 speakers in the room, you are a happy man. But if you can bring 5 speakers in the room, you have to have special. No, this is a two-way system, a good tuned two-way system with good loudspeakers will make you happy. This is if you have a good sound stage, it goes wide and it goes deep. It is very satisfactory. And except if you are listening to 5-channel recordings, and if you want to be in the concert hall with the applause coming from behind you, okay, then you need more speakers. But like I told you, if you have a family and you don't have your own listening room, I think you're a lucky man if you can place 2 big speakers in your room.
I think with your loudspeakers, the wife acceptance factors must be pretty high, isn't it?
This is also a reason why I did it. So all the speakers are made for the customer, and the wife can pick the color. So this is, I think, an extra bonus for the customer.
A couple of other questions. One is from Mayuda Mania. If you don't mind, anxious to see your room that your demo. Is this your demo room you're sitting now? Any special feature or inputs that you can share?
This is my demo. Sorry, this is my demo room. This is my listening room. This room is on. I also lend it to recording engineers to master. So if they want, they come and bring their CDs and have a listen to what they have recorded, because this system reveals everything, also everything what is not right. And so this is my demo room. I have my models here to demo for the moment. The Riva is on exposure, but this is the room where I sit, where I listen, and where I let's say create my loudspeakers. So everything is happening. It's not only a listening room, it's also my crossovers are laying around here, and I listen to my components of my crossover, and when it's ready, it goes with the speaker.
Right.
But everything, this is my playroom. So.
But have you treated it acoustically, or you just left it as it is?
For the only thing, so there is no traditional acoustical treatment. The only thing, my ceiling, I will go up a little. So there is a Rockfon ceiling, because the ceiling was 50, so this is 2 meter 45 or 50, but it is 3 meter high. So the dimensions were not right for for a listening room. So I brought the ceiling down with Rockfon, and this damps a little. But for the rest, I have a big carpet on the floor, and I have here on this side, I have a stone wall. On this side, it is gyps, so a plaster wall. I have a window in the back. So this is like a normal room in the house. So this also, I know power conditioning works. So this is, but I don't use power conditioning. I have an extra line shielded from the meter to here for my audio equipment, and I have a normal line for all the switching power supplies which runs next to it. But for the rest, I don't do any treatment in my listening room, because if I invite people to have a listen, I want them to listen to the system as it is. You can always improve it with power conditioners, but I don't think it's not fair to put a very expensive power conditioning system and then sell a normal music system, because the listener is not listening to what he is buying. So this is, to me, it is, I have a normal power block, and I don't have, let's say, fancy stuff as before my amplifier. So this is normal.
There's another question.
Yeah.
Most clients who buy high-end systems have very beautiful homes. Would you set up a system without any acoustic treatment, or would you still suggest to go ahead with some acoustic treatment?
I have experience with homes where there was no possibility to do acoustic treatment. So, for instance, the picture on my website of the big room with the 2 Aquarius and the 2 galaxies, there is a big mat in the middle, which I suggested because there was a gypsum platter ceiling. There are 2 windows, so that it's a loft. On the left side, there was a window 10 meters by 3.5. On the right side, there was a window 10 meters by 3.5. On the back side, there was a small window. So it was let's say, the most difficult room to make a system sound right. So I advised to place a big mat under the seats to have a little bit of damping. But sometimes you are in a position that you cannot make an acoustical treatment, because the customer has to agree with that too. If a customer or an architect, if they want to have the straight lines, they don't want anything to break or to absorb, you're with your hands tight, and you have to do it with the tools you have, but even also then you can soften a lot out with cabling. If you use the right cables, you can make it sound good. So that is not a problem.
Koen, I'm also curious to know, and I'm sure many would also like to know, why did you choose this egg shape to design loudspeakers? Has it got anything to do with, you know, normal speakers are always considered box, like a cuboid or a cube. So what do you think is the ideal shape for a loudspeaker, and why did you go ahead with the egg shape?
The ideal shape is a ball. So this was what I was where I started the session with. So the ideal.
Okay, you did. Sorry. Okay, fine.
No problem. No, but I will repeat it for the people who came in later. So the ideal shape is a ball, and yeah, I stretched the ball to get my 3 speakers in the cabinet. And the reason why I use the egg shape is to cancel cabinet resonance. So this is there is no flat surfaces opposite to each other, so you don't have reflection. The reflection dies out in a round room. So that's the reason why I always try to work with organic shapes, because this is a big benefit for the sound.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any more questions? No.
Yeah, there is one. What is the suggested dimension for a perfect stereo room? Oh, I think that in most cases, there is a house, there is a room for stereo, and you have to work within the room. And you have to, you know, the bigger the room, the better, the easier it is to have it sound right. And it is more difficult if you have, let's say, a square room, 4x4 or 5x5. But if you have an unequal length and width, you can work with it. And most of the time, you have to work with what is there. So there is no much choice what is a perfect room or not. This most of the time it is this room we have to live, or this room is the listening room, and you have to work within the room you have. And I think there is always a solution to make it sound right. Whether if the room is big enough and it doesn't sound right in the length, you put your system in the width, and most of the time a lot of problems are solved then. But it is, like I told before, you first have to enter the empty room and check the sound of the room. See how the room reacts to very low sounds, because I think that is the way to go.
Right. So, I think, and does anybody else have any questions? I think we're done otherwise.
If anyone else has a question, they can unmute themselves and even ask the question directly to Koen.
Okay.
Koen, I had a question. This is Karthik.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to just explain your room setup, the equipment list, maybe what are the equipments that you have in your room?
Okay.
For the benefit of the audience.
Yes, okay. So behind me, I have the Riva, so my flagship speakers. I have 2 monoblocks of Luxman MQ88. It is introduced as a 40-watt KT88 tube amplifier, and the Norwegian distributor ordered 2 monoblocks of it. So they were made 100-watt KT8. Then I have the Mytech Manhattan DAC. I have an Evo 432 Evo high-end streamer, which is also a Belgian invention and a Belgian producer. Then I have the Luxman CU80 preamplifier, which is an 8-channel preamplifier, passive preamplifier with a Leshua, the patented Leshua Luxman volume control. And this 8-channel can be divided to even a 2-channel 4-way, so you can switch every channel and you can dedicate a function to every channel. And then I have the Luxman multiplayer, so it plays DVD, audio, plays SACD, CD. I have a Mitchell turntable, and I have a microbands cartridge, and yeah, and I have a tube amp built by one of my technicians. So this is I will show you.
I also noticed there is a guitar to the side. So do you play the guitar?
No, the guitar is from my son. So
nice.
I don't play. I listen to instruments, but I don't play instruments. So any more questions?
Friends, if there are any more questions, I would request you all to unmute yourself and ask the question directly to Koen. I'll maybe wait for another 2 minutes for the questions. Maybe if you have any questions, you can always ask them. Unmute yourself and ask.
It's me, Koen.
Yeah.
Marzban here again. How important is measuring equipment to you? Is measuring your speakers and publishing results like most of the big companies do, is that important? And do you do that? And do you measure first and then build, or do you build first and listen and it's okay, then you measure? How do you go about your process?
I build first, I listen, and I take the measurement as a control of my listening. So this is the way I work. But I always follow, let's say, my feelings. So I build and I adjust to my hearing and to my. So when I feel it's right and when everything is there, then it is ready for me. And then after I go for a check for measurements.
So measurement is important, you say?
Measurement is important just to check if you were right with your feelings. It is absolutely important. If you don't measure, you don't know. But measurement, let's say the speaker with a straight line is not necessarily a good sounding speaker. So this is because
okay.
it's
that puts it well, yeah.
But a lot depends on components choice, and you can make easy a speaker with a good line, but it doesn't mean that your component choice is matching each other and that your speaker sounds good. So it's what to me what is most important is that your tweeter, your mid, and your woofer, they blend in. So you cannot, if you hear a tweeter, or if you hear mid, or if you hear a bass, then something is not right. You have to hear music, and the music has to come loose from the speakers. And I think that is more important than straight line on a paper. So this is, well, it's my opinion.
Koen, I'm also curious. I just want to know, what are your views on coaxial drivers and coaxial setups, where the HF is placed inside the mid-range and that's placed inside the woofer, so everything time aligns perfectly and exits in the perfect way. What are your thoughts on that?
Theoretically, this is the perfect speaker and the way to do it. What I experience a lot with coaxial is that the tweeter is inside a moving horn, and that you get a kind of horn sound from a coaxial speaker, which I don't like. So this is my taste, but let's say theoretically it is the best, because you start from one point and you have everything coming from one point. But my experience is that a lot of these speakers sound like a horn speaker, and so the reflection back on the cabinet, in this case the moving horn, is disturbing in a lot of cases. So to me, I don't use it because I'm not a fan.
So what you're talking about is typically traditional coaxials, you see, which the HF driver was,
so
the magnet of the HF driver was placed. So nowadays you have coaxials where the whole HF driver is placed at the mouth of the box. The whole driver is placed in front of the of the mid-range. So you do away with this problem that you said of a moving horn, which is directing the.
I think that is it is a way to get away from the moving horn. On the other hand, you get the voice coil of the tweeter is 10 centimeters in front of the voice coil of the woofer. So that is another problem. But I must say, I have not, I know of speakers who work this way, but I didn't have the chance to listen. So I cannot give an honest answer, because I don't have, I didn't listen. But it is a way to solve the problem of the moving horn. Absolutely.
This is Karthik here. I have a question. Koen, what's the most challenging room that you've ever worked in? Like, probably the most.
The room, that's the room what I was talking about. The room with two glass walls, a glass wall behind, plaster ceiling, and a wooden floor, and a stone wall in the back. So it was all hard materials. This was the most difficult room that I experienced, and I had long cables because the speakers were standing in the room, and the room is really big, and the music system was behind the wall where the speakers were placed. So all the cables were really long, and this was a difficult job. But in the end, it sounds good.
What is the size of the room roughly?
I don't know exactly, but I think it's 20 meters by 15.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really, if you
that's a huge room. My God, that's
20.
It's a big.
Okay.
If you on my website, there is the picture of the two Aquarius next to the fireplace, and in the back, because it's a 4-channel home theater. On the back there is two galaxies for the surround, and this room is like, I think between the back glass wall and the front, it is like 12 or 15 meters, and it's 20 meters wide. It's really a huge room.
Any perspective on whether to align the two loudspeakers along the length of the room, or the shorter direction of the room, or the longer direction of the room? Any perspectives on that?
Oh, that is. You have to see that in the situation. So in this case, with a very big room, I'm playing on the short side of the room, and I know if you have problems on the long side of the room, because most of the people, they want to have the speakers in the long. So in the length, because you have more space for your sofa to sit, you have more. You have the feeling that you have more space. There is also space behind you. But sometimes if you turn the system to the short side, it sounds better. But like I told you before, there is no
One size fits all.
Yeah, there is no golden rule how to place a system. You have to see what materials are used in this room. Is it a plastic room? Is it a stone room? Is there wood? Is there stone on the floor? Is there carpet on the floor? These are all factors that influence the sound and make it easy or difficult to place your system. So the room is the third loudspeaker, and it is the most important factor in the music setup. So you can have the best system. If you place it in a horrible room, it will not sound good. So this is, and then you have to treat, and the more difficult.
Koen, I have a question. Could I?
Yeah. Yes, you can.
So this is regarding demo rooms, because since you're a dealer as well, and many of people who are on this call are also dealer and do demo a lot of the speakers that they have. So typically a dealer would carry about 3, 4 or 5 different models of loudspeakers. Would you say it's a good setup to set up all the speakers, at the side of each other? And means, like say one suppose the left side, if I consider left side, I've got a big tower, then a smaller tower, smaller tower, smaller tower, or multiple towers over here and multiple towers on the right, or to set it up the way you have, where the one that you're demoing is the only one that's set up and the other speakers are put on the side, like you have set them up. If you could just set up your speakers on the side, those speakers, they're all put on the side and they're not sitting on either side of the main speaker, because that's what normally we do out here. We set up multiple number of speakers on the left and multiple on the right, and then give a demo. Okay, this is the one that's playing. Okay, now this is the one that's playing. Okay, now this is the one that. Is that the way to do a demo, or
if you can do it, it is the best way. But I also understand that it also depends on the range and also on the price range of the speakers, because I understand if you have a shop and you have some traffic in the shop and you need some sets be ready to listen. And if you have to take everything and put it, it takes some time. Sometimes if you have 3, 4 customers in the shop, you don't have the time to do that. So I think that is the reason, and especially in like lower priced and mid-priced systems, a lot of dealers have 1 or 2 amplifiers close to each other, and they have 3 or 4 speakers next to each other because they can switch easily. I have full understanding for that, but I think if you go into the higher range, you need to. Most of the time you work with appointments with your customer, so you have time to have a proper setup of the system, because you are prepared if he comes, and if he comes, you have ready what you think is good for him. And yeah, this is that's also the difference between high-end and mid and low-end. As a high-end dealer, you can do that, and I think you should do that for your customer. As a low or a hi-fi dealer, you don't have the time, and you cannot do that because it's too time consuming, and it is too difficult. Also, it's dangerous for damage on the products if you move them around. So I think that is the difference between the 2 markets. So, but if you can place the system that you want to show to your customer without any disturbance of other systems or drivers, and that's the way to do it.
Another question in the similar vein, Koen. when you were setting up, like for example, let's take your demo setup right now. You've got the main speakers, the Rivas, which you want to demo to a client, but you've got the Aquarius and the Galaxy sitting on the side. Now, do you short the terminals of the Aquarius and the Galaxy which are on the side? And why do you do that if you do that? Could you explain that?
I always short them when I demo, and I do it to keep the speakers silent, because if you don't do that, you have the whole room singing with the Rivas, and this is not this doesn't give a good impression of the loudspeaker, because everything what is not fixed will move. So this if you have 6 woofers in the room and you play something with bass, all the 6 woofers will work as a passive loudspeaker, or everything will work as a passive speaker. So yes, when I demo, I short everything.
So by shorting it, what does it do? It prevents the cones from moving?
It prevents the speakers from moving. So if you short it, they don't move.
And what happens in the case of active loudspeakers? Like suppose you've got active subwoofers in the room which are not being used. Would those also need to be, how do you short active subwoofers?
Yeah, you cannot short them.
So then they will add to?
They will work passive. If they don't,
So
if they're not, maybe when they are powered, that they will be, that the amplifier breaks the movement of the woofer. I'm not sure of that, but it is possible, because there is a tension on the woofer and it doesn't get any signal. So I think maybe if you power them and you don't give them signal, that they keep more silent than if you switch them off. If you switch them off, they don't have control on them and they will move. But I think if you power them, the amplifier will break the movement, but I'm not sure of that. So I have to ask that to one of my technicians who can answer that, but I'm not sure of this.
Yeah. Thank you, Koen. Thank you for that answer.
I think we've just crossed the time limit of 90 minutes, and I think we're quite good on the time today. Are there any other questions that anyone would like to ask? Maybe I'll give another minute